We now return to Reckoning of New York. Alright, I suspect this is probably only a chapter. I don't know. Pedric Malkavian. I've never been this close to grasping the nature of my inner voices. The answer is almost within reach, yet I can't help but question, when the stakes are at their highest, do I truly have what it takes to suffer the cost? Oh, really? Well, there's enough content that this is required. Interesting. Auspex. Allows kindred to sift out the truth from lies and reads the minds around them. Dominate. Gives kindred the ability to control the actions of others, alter their memories, and force others to act against their own volition. Obfuscate. Allows kindred to hide easily, move without being noticed, and divert the eyes of observers. These two seem like they'd probably be... Oh. I only get to pick one? Or... What? Okay, I guess this is just how it is then. Alright. These are off by default. And I can't turn them on. Okay. Pedric relies on his caution and mysterious liaison to avoid dangers and manage his hunger. Okay. Night 1, the dragon. Oh, well, okay, I guess this is its whole thing. I guess I was wrong. Glossary terms. And it's not even updated. Okay. Vretra's cruise ship, Dangerous Liaisons, Part 1. Brooklyn Bridge shimmers in the East River at night. The Brooklyn Bridge, shimmering in the East River at night, casts a hauntingly beautiful reflection. Despite witnessing countless global spectacles, there's an uncanny allure here. Flow of headlights. It reminds me of souls embarking on their eternal quest to Magmael? I don't know. Hard to pinpoint why, really. Although it might be about the company soon to join me. I wish I were able to immerse myself in this scene, truly appreciate it, but tonight is not the night. I see myself as a patient man, unbothered by impulses, scornful of fleeting whims. Hell, I actively fight against those very ideas every second of my own life, with reason as my guide, resolve as my sword, and my ring as my shield. And I am accustomed to waiting here on the deck of this opulent ship, where I am expected to feel put into my place to earn her precious time. Vretra, say what you might, those in the city wronged by her certainly do not mince words, knows very well how to maneuver power dynamics under constant pressure. The lesser players wait, while those in control choose when and where to make their appearance. So I wait. Normally it wouldn't bother me. I know what paltry regard she has for me, but I am due elsewhere in half an hour, and this delay is making it impossible to be in Queens on time. The very idea of being late vexes me to the core, not only because I detest tardiness and being reprimanded for it, but also because it is utterly unbecoming of my position among the upper echelons of New York City. My role as a mediator between the Anarchs and Camarilla might seem superficial, empty perhaps, but this position was thrust upon me scornfully, I might add. It's better to play along and show them that their disdain is hardly enough to undermine my resolve. I am shaken out of my reverie by the sound of soft, clacking footsteps on the deck. It seems she has deigned to grant me an audience. Greetings, Vretra. She doesn't respond at first, slowly sizing me up and clearly enjoying my unease. She's the only person in whose presence I feel self-conscious about my perpetual slouch. Not that it matters. Even if I stood upright, she would still tower over me like the mythical demon from whence she got her name. Forgive me for prying, but I'm already late for the council meeting. Is there a particular reason you've delayed me? Put me at risk of arousing their suspicions? Vretra's face remains cold and inscrutable except for the corner of her lips stretching minutely to a half-smile. There's a reason behind everything I do, dear... Well... Try that again. Alright. There's a reason behind everything I do, dear boy, as you know perfectly well. Shouldn't a fashionably late arrival at Elysium diminish your perceived threat? No, it just makes me look like a despised scatterbrain could hardly pose any danger to the Ivory Tower, yes? Now tell me, is there anything you would like to share regarding the Council? I want to answer her, but suddenly all I can hear are the echoing voices in my mind. Spill it. Tell her. Tell on them, lad. My hand instinctively seeks out my dice ring and spins it violently. We're nothing to them. Yeah, fuck 'em, boy. Fuck all of them. It lands on the 20, and the clamor in my head stops. Thank God. I straighten my back just a little. Spying on the council for you is not part of our agreement. I am not one of your pawns in this game. Surely you can get all the information you need elsewhere. She just smirks and stares at me unblinkingly with her unnerving, unmoving eyes. As much as I try to be stern, I'm not delusional. I know she could easily force anything she wanted out of me, but she probably won't. First, she wouldn't want to break her toy, especially one with so much potential. Second, I have revealed nothing so far. She clearly must have another source of intel, but I have no idea where, despite my short private investigation on the matter. We stand in a prolonged tense silence with Vritra simply watching. Has the voice manifested again recently? I nod, just nod. Tell me. It's a command, not a request. Thankfully, it's one I'm glad to follow. Forgive me, but it was all rather convoluted. I caught fragments about the price of pursuit, the asking, and the shadow of the Daystar, but I do not know what any of that means. She nods to herself, her eyes still locked with mine, until I can't help but avert my gaze under the immense pressure. Then, surprisingly, for the first time tonight, it is she who turns away, looking thoughtfully to the horizon. It bothers me that the background keeps jumping. The loop is not perfect here. And I can feel that rare impatience in me grow and fester like a wound. What is the purpose of our meetings if you keep your insides to yourself? Nobody's more surprised at this sudden outburst than myself, but the frustration forces me to move forward, even in spite of Vritra's slowly rising eyebrows. I have to understand the nature of the voice. I need to know why it speaks to me and why it's different from all the others that I can control. When Vritra faces me again, her eyebrows are relaxed, her lips slightly upturned. All in due time, dear boy. Her grin widens, sending shivers down my spine. In several nights' time, I will gain knowledge beyond your imagination, an insight into the very fabric of our dark world. An associate of mine is nearing the end of his task, a task that heralds a new dawn. The end of your quest is nigh, but to that end I have to offer you a new bargain. I will share my knowledge with you, but only if you agree to accept it. I do not remember the sensation of my mouth drying up in excitement, but I assume it resembles closely what I am experiencing now. I tried to rein it in? I don't know. I don't know what he would do. Rein it in. I have to be careful. It's almost as if I'm Fionn, on the verge of consuming the salmon of knowledge, blind to the potential fallout. And yet, what are your terms? Worry not, I won't make you go against your beliefs. I just need you to keep the council engrossed in the matters of least importance. I allow myself to feel a small bout of relief and smile a little. It shouldn't prove difficult. The council is already consumed in infighting instead of solving actual problems. Vritra smirks dangerously, showing rows of sharpened teeth. That may well change soon, very soon indeed. Make sure to steer them away from anything that might hinder my cause. This time, when she turns away with a gentle swish of tulle, it's clear that the audience is over. I nod at her and take my leave, or I am taken to my leave, rather, and escorted back to the same RIB that brought me here nearly an hour ago. As we make our way towards the shore, I stare at the ship a while longer, marveling despite myself. It's a perfect blend of low-key and lavish, always on the move, an impenetrable, inaccessible river fortress. It's no surprise Vritra chose this vessel as her base of operations. The fact that she never leaves its deck shrouds both the ship and the Hudson Dragoness herself in even more mystique. This deliberate aura of mystery has sparked considerable speculation about her nature over the last year and a half. Even though I've been meeting with her regularly for months, she remains largely an enigma to me, aside from the fact that she must be one of, if not the most formidable kindred on the East Coast. One might think that only fools would deal with the devil, and normally I would concur. But if Vritra holds the keys to the answer I've been chasing for the better part of a century, the Daystar cometh, Fionn. Then I am prepared to walk Fionn's path, regardless of the cost. That mean? Oh wow! So we just keep going. All right. Rebuke at the Elysium. I shall be late for a crucial meeting at Elysium, all part of Ritra's ostentatious power play. The Council's growing mistrust of me will surely deepen further. We're doing this again? From a different perspective? The usually manageable traffic decides to betray me tonight, tacking on an extra 30 minutes to my journey and pushing my fashionably late arrival into plainly rude territory. In moments like this, I cannot shake the feeling that Vritra is manipulating me, her fingers firmly wrapped around my throat, bending my destiny to her whims as one does a tender young branch. Struggling to put that thought aside, I arrive at the art hole in a sour mood. The Council has the eerie ability to detect even the slightest hint of stress, which they will exploit with all the subtlety of a ravenous bear mangling its prey. That's an odd metaphor. To further compound my irritation, one of Kadir's minions, my usual nemesis, guards the entrance to Elysium, with his silent partner by his side. Kadir, what a surprise. My buddy and I were placing bets on how late you'd roll up, and if I knew you couldn't care less, I'd have doubled that bet easy. Somehow, every word he utters manages to get on my nerves, no matter the topic. I pay them no mind and make my way to the entrance when suddenly a firm hand on my chest stops me cold. You enter on my say-so, Trash. Apologize like the good boy you are. Let me through. Ain't no way we're letting you just stroll in there. Gotta show some culture. You could not spell culture if the letters came with handles. It amazes you... You could not spell culture if the letter... Oh, is he talking? It's amazing you do not trip... It's amazing you do not tip over from the sheer weight of ignorance you're lugging around. Now kindly clear the path, O great paragon of culture, or I'll clear it through you. He steps back with a vacant retraction of his hand and a dumbfounded look. I tip an imaginary hat his way. This slightly improves my mood? Or the slight improves my mood? I don't know what the fuck. I guess he used his power on him, even though we weren't aware of that? But the swift, soundless sway of the door to Elysium extinguishes the last flicker of my spirits. Is it just me, or is this written weird compared to the other main story? I have never harbored an affinity for modern art. It seems too loud, too chaotic, and often excessively abstract for my taste. Perhaps I'm old-fashioned, or perhaps I'm simply too old. However, I have learned to appreciate the frequent exhibits at the art hall, mostly out of necessity. My participation in discussions among the council members is minimal, so perhaps it was sheer boredom that eased my aversions, if ever so slightly. For instance, now would be an ideal moment to immerse myself in the extensive collection of street art on display, the latest and, for the moment, last exhibit before the gallery is temporarily closed under the pretense of renovation. For the last month the space has undergone a significant transformation. The cavernous gallery, which used to echo with odd gasps inspired by the art, is now cluttered with equipment. The art hall has been converted into a makeshift command center by the order of Kadir, the local sheriff. And since a deafening silence befell the room the moment I stepped inside, there is nothing left for me but to look around and wait for the impending rebuke. I would much rather study the art pieces than endure the stern gazes of the council members, each laden with barely concealed disdain. You must be setting some kind of record, mediator. An hour and a half late? Kadir scoffs at me. His respect was never mine to claim, and judging by his unyielding expression, that door is now firmly shut. Take it on the chin, I guess. Please accept my sincerest apologies, esteemed members of the council. I assure you this will not happen again. Is it pink because these are choices? Yes. I don't remember it being pink in the main story. Our dear guest, your friend the Baron of the Bronx, has already made amends on your behalf, quite persistently, I might add, almost as if he foresaw this mediation role falling to himself. I shoot a glance at Torque. He can play it cool, but knowing him, he's fuming inside. Your appearance has already thrown us off course. Assume your position, and let's proceed without further interruption. Unless you feel the need to mediate that proposition? I nod, silently feigning remorse, though there's little need to pretend. I genuinely detest being late. As I was saying, another group of Duskborn was destroyed last night, including a few Chantry-recognized alchemists. The onslaught has only escalated since Larson's final death 2 weeks ago. Oh, please, Aisling. Larson was naught but a laughingstock. I take a seat next to Torque, and he immediately leans closer, lowering his voice to a whisper that rumbles like distant thunder. But in the actual fuck, Pedrick, you took forever. No one here knows about my little trips over the Hudson, not even Torque. Likely that not even Vritra's closest allies are aware of my involvement with her. That's why I always keep a handy excuse up my sleeve, one that's increasingly easy to concoct these days, though I wish it weren't necessary. Well, I encountered the troublemakers again. I had to clean myself up before coming here. Damn, how many? It's a couple of unprepared fanatics, or just a couple of unprepared fanatics. It's hardly an epic tale. Just a bit vexed that they held me up. You didn't think to mention it sooner? If anything could get Kadir off your back, it's that. Come on, Torque, do you really believe he would buy that? Torque gives me a look of mute understanding before he casts a sidelong glance at Kadir. Given the sheriff's interest in the hunter threat, I suspect he would question me about it rigorously, and I cannot risk losing grip on my tall tales. Look, I get that these nights are hard, but you gotta step it up, Pedrick. You're making me look bad in front of the council, and our truce is already hanging by a thread. Fuck that mutt. Who the hell does he think he is? I know, I'm sorry about that. I listen in on the usual bickering of these meetings, but soon enough my mind begins to drift. We're well beyond the administrative stuff, for which I am thankful. That's when I am usually the least welcome and often pointedly asked to step outside the walls of Elysium. Still, I have drawn some conclusions about the current power struggle within the local Camarilla. In short, Addison Payne is making a play for Prince Penard's position, as her indecisiveness in the face of the current threats keep undermining her influence. But that is just the tip of the iceberg, noticeable even from as far away as my provenance requires me to stand. The root of her problems seemed to be the continued fallout from Douglas Callahan's final death. From what I can tell, the former Anarch Baron, with whom she had a blood bond, was too deep in a risky game and got burned badly. The attempt to cover it up as a suicide would have succeeded if it hadn't been for Julia Sawinski throwing a wrench in the works. She exposed the scheme, revealing Carter Vander Weyden and the former Malkavian Primogen, the mastermind behind the murder. Somehow it never sat right with me. Knowing the court members better now, I'm fairly certain Vander Weyden was framed. Although specifically why and by whom remains a mystery. Still, Julia's ascension to La Sombra Primogen appears too swift to be merely a chance. Torque has told me only so much, and I chose not to dig deeper, letting bygones be bygones. I get the feeling it's a sensitive subject for him, not from any moral compunction, of course, but because he was somewhat involved in Callahan's demise. That naturally brings me to the conclusion that either he has something on Penard or vice versa. Otherwise, his presence here wouldn't be accepted, or should I say tolerated, and maintaining the shaky truce between the Camarilla and Anarchs would be even tougher these nights. Yet, as Penard's support continues to erode, strikingly so in the case of Arturo, a man otherwise known only for his long-standing influence on the prince, Torque's sway is in rapid decline. And then, about 6 months ago, the hunter anomaly appeared completely out of the blue, setting off a downward spiral. I snap out of these musings, only to discover that the topic at hand is entirely related to my thoughts. It's the usual interplay between two factions. Kadir pushes for aggressive action against the hunters, while Penard, belittling the sheriff's confrontational stance, advocates for dialogue with Vritra, a tactic that has yet to produce any favorable outcomes. The stalemate seems to be stretching on and on. I lean in closer and whisper to Torque. How long has this been going on? Maybe 2 hours? Honestly, I can't even tell anymore. It's endless and fruitless as usual. Suddenly, the bickering halts abruptly, like a knife slicing through the tension in the room. For a brief moment, I worry that I have just made my second and likely final mistake of the evening. Fortunately, their glances are directed elsewhere, and not at me. I wait, hoping someone will break the uneasy silence. What exactly are you implying, Sheriff? What kind of new lead are we talking about here? Last night, with Valerie's assistance, we ruled out the possibility that the SAD or any other federal agencies tied to the Second Inquisition are behind this aggression. Regrettably, whoever's orchestrating their operations remains a mystery. I must say, this hardly qualifies as a lead. It's more like a monumental setback. Perhaps, however, there has been another development. We suspect that a party from outside New York is involved in the arms trade, directly supplying the hunters with equipment. This party is a member of the Ravnos clan. A ripple of unease spreads through the room. Very fortuitous of you, Kadir, to uncover such vital information at such an opportune moment. There was some fortune in how we came upon this intelligence, I admit. Specifically, we accidentally intercepted a shipment filled with firearms. The shipment had almost no traceable marks. The driver, a ghoul, only knew about the intermediate stops and provided no clues about the final recipient. Sounds like onion routing to me, honestly. Perhaps, but we managed to loosen the driver's tongue enough to force a name out of him. Reynard Castle. One of us. One of us. I pay close attention as the room falls quiet. The sheriff milks the silence masterfully, like a seasoned thespian. Even I have to admit, that is impressive. Our research on Castle suggests he's a somewhat obscure con artist and a part-time blood dealer who specializes in acquiring specific blood resonances. His name has surfaced in a couple of reports over recent years, yet until now, his schemes seem irrelevant to our operations. This Castle has indeed been trading blood beyond our oversight. The circulatory system would certainly be aware of it. Well, I've got multiple confirmations on that story from different sources. Really, I think ignoring a potential clue just because your drone screwed up their records pane is pretty damn foolish. Considering the scant information available on Castle based on what we know now, I'd say he's quite adept at staying off the grid. The name doesn't ring a bell. I wonder if Mato knows something about this Ravnos crook. But even if he does, he probably wouldn't talk about it, haunting past and all. In any case, one thing is certain. There is a kindred actively stoking the fires of war by supplying our enemy with military-grade equipment. The evidence we've compiled on Castle might be circumstantial, but when you take a step back, it does add up. I'm convinced the Castle is key to exposing the brains behind the Hunter movement. Sounds too good to be true, but despite my observations... Fuck me! Yet despite my reservations about Kadir, he's usually on point. Give me Kadir, but all that sounds like wishful thinking. How does a nobody from nowhere suddenly rise to warlord status just like that? Most crucially, why hasn't he been apprehended yet? We've been on his trail for a couple of nights now, but he continues to elude us. As for his motives, we may be close to uncovering them. Stop with the mystery, Sheriff, and give us something substantial. The way Kadir levels Arturo with a look, I'd rather not find myself on the receiving end of his gaze. We've learned that Castle's child recently surfaced in New York. Valerie was tasked with delivering her to the Council. She should be escorting her to Elysium as we speak. Chose not to disclose this because... Arturo unceremoniously interrupts the prince. I squint at him with surprise. With his sophisticated manners, such uncouth behavior is highly irregular. What true insight could the child of a trickster possibly offer? Dishonesty is their clan's trade. It's doubtful she knows anything of Castle's schemes, and if she does, she's likely to feed us with lies. That's a remarkably astute observation from you, Arturo. I'm genuinely surprised. However, that's not the reason I'm bringing her in. My plan is to squeeze her until she spills her guts or her cries lure Castle out from wherever he's hiding. Commotion rises, and Bernard gets to her feet. Have you finished weaving your fantasies, Kadir? Because I can't entertain these delusions any longer. We've already lost too much time on this while the true crisis goes unaddressed. It isn't me who is delusional, Prince. Or should I remind you of your own lapses in judgment? The bickering erupts once more. I tune it out and then lean closer to Torque. Castle? Do you know anything about this Castle figure? Bits and pieces. I know at least one of ours has bought blood off of him. I wouldn't call that Raven a major player, even if he was drawing blood from Cain himself. That's not the real issue here. What Kadir is suggesting is a move that might just help us clear out the bastards that have been escalating their attacks on our turf, and it's not just blindly charging into the night looking for clashes the way Kadir loves to. The front door opens with a sudden yet graceful swing. It's Valerie, with another kindred in tow. Must be none other than Castle's child. The girl is a peculiar sight, petite, dressed in what I can only describe as questionably fashionable rags. She scans the room with the eyes of someone calculating her quickest exit. Understandable given the circumstances. I glance at the council members, but they are too wrapped up in their fervent argument to notice the newcomers. Valerie doesn't seem eager to interrupt either. Wouldn't have been such an issue if we had taken action when the signs were so glaringly obvious. If only the rest of us were blessed with your profound gift of foresight, Sheriff. Unlife would be a walk in the park. Allow me to emphasize, our risks aren't limited to a single front. Acting on a gut feeling might work wonders in motion pictures. Here, in the real world, it's a different story. Spare me the pretense of ignorance, Arturo. The pattern was unmistakable well over a month ago. Now, bitch, bad news is what she is. Liar, liar, liar. Upon a closer look, Castle's child looks wholly innocuous. Hardly the type you would associate with any kind of hostile activity, but something about her unsettles me, a feeling I can't quite put into words. I ring in spinning before I even acknowledge the need to do so. Your playful decision to allow the Thinbloods to appoint Larson as their primogen raises his final death to a level that can't be casually swept under the rug, Helena. Thin-blooded or not, it throws into question our grip on the situation. What would you have me do, then? Unleash our dear sheriff without adequate reconnaissance, just in the name of haste? We can't overlook this excessive efficacy in the last skirmish, can we? Or, look, his excessive... whatever. Does the prospect of a masquerade breach give you pause? I sense Torque shifting next to me, his arm brushing mine. He's visibly agitated, the ongoing argument clearly getting under his skin. Figure we're all fond of keeping things the way they are. But there's times to just sit back and think, and then there's times when you gotta step up and do something bold. This feels like it's time to make a move. An anarch championing chaos, a revelation that somehow fails to astonish O esteemed Baron of the Bronx. I steal another glance at the girl. There's a look in her eyes that suggests she knows she's in a tight spot, but does she understand the full extent of the game being played around her? And how little importance the players attach to pawns like her. If deception is indeed a hallmark of her clan, she might. Nevertheless, I can't help but feel a twinge of pity for her, aware as I am of the daunting pressure the Council can exert. Asking is yours, Fionn. Better to rip the band-aid off. We'll be here all night if I don't steer their focus her way. My apologies for interrupting, Mr. Payne, but it appears Ms. Duval has brought forth the issue you mentioned earlier. It might be wise to ensure she is not exposed to unnecessary information. Yes, thank you for that shrewd observation, caitiff. She hurls those words at me like a snake spitting venom. I wonder, would her attitude change if she knew I wasn't truly a caitiff? Esteemed Council, I give you the troublesome Ravnos neonates. I gather you all desire a swift resolution to this matter. Her disruptions have been minimal thus far. Let us hope that trend continues. Finally, their eyes shift to the matter at hand. Why are we going through this again? Furthermore, why is this just a book? Spending half an hour just reading, there's no game here. I understand the formal necessity of addressing all this as well as my role in the matter. However, there are more pressing concerns demanding attention, far more pressing. We discard all the traditions, too, while we're at it. We've pirouetted around the Hudson problem for more than a year, yet progress remains as stale as our debate. Certainly a few additional moments to honor the very laws you spearhead so vigorously couldn't hurt, could they? The Hudson is a completely different beast, as you're all aware. Well aware. We need to address the locust swarm engulfing New York before Camarilla's entire framework crumbles beneath its weight. And how does that sit with you, Payne? Just last night, 2 Duskborn and a fledgling from your clan were reduced to ashes, and we're still in the dark about who's pulling the strings. Shouldn't that worry you more than policing the purity of the red market? In principle, I agree, Sheriff. However, is he talking or is Aide talking? He hasn't talked ever so far. In principle, I agree, Sheriff. However, should we continue to disregard even minor infractions, we broadcast a message of vulnerability. Vulnerability threatens our efforts within and beyond our borders. Efforts we plan to carry on without interruption once the locust swarm, as you've termed it, is eradicated. Can't believe I'm saying it, but I'm inclined to agree with Gramps on this one. We can't simply let something like that slip through the cracks without taking proper measures. So you've assumed the role of his advocate now? Quite the bold ascent up the ladder of your own making, Julia. What's next on the horizon? Another hostile? Enough already. An uneasy silence falls over the room. Everyone automatically slips into their accustomed roles. A month ago, I might have speculated that their reactions were purely theatrical, honed through the years of political maneuvering. But right now, I have little certainty. Perhaps they are genuinely unsettled. When the prince finally manages to speak, her voice lacks the confidence you'd anticipate from someone at the helm. Since she is not just putting on an act. We're all here for the same reason you are, Aisling, or am I mistaken and you forget where your loyalties lie? Now let's put this issue to rest here and now. Strive for brevity, Sheriff. Understood. Why are we going through this again? Cully of Clan Ravnos, you stand accused of violating the New York Camarilla's praxis, infringing on the tradition of hospitality, and endangering the Masquerade, among other things. Wait, on what grounds? Not the act. There's a wealth of evidence in that recreational vehicle of yours, most of it confirming the suspicions we have been harboring over the recent months. Petty theft from our subjects, impersonation of other kindred, lineage forgery. Need I go on? But your involvement in large-scale blood and mortal trafficking outside our scrutiny and the jurisdiction of the circulatory system is as obvious as it is dangerous to the stability of our domain, especially with your clientele often being in direct hostility to our interests, as Primogen Payne was kind enough to confirm. While some might chalk this up to colossal stupidity, I am neither so forgiving nor tolerant of fraudsters who respect nothing but their own gain. I settle in, waiting for the drama to unfold. I'm genuinely curious about how this Raven girl will handle the questioning. What intricate web of lies, what complex, multi-layered stories might she spin just to save herself from the council? This is not the time to be quiet, Raven. This is total crap. I don't even own that RV. I snagged it on a rental from this Anarch guy in the Bronx. Oh, you did, huh? What are the odds, right? See, why won't you grill your Baron friend over there? I wince at the blatant lie, shooting Torque a questioning glance, but he just rolls his yellow eyes with impatience. Well, there was an attempt, I suppose. I earnestly hope you're not taking me for a fool. That would be a misstep of monumental proportions, unlike anything these walls have witnessed. Out of the corner of my eye, I catch a glimpse of the Tremere Regent silently mouthing what appears to be a "I beg to differ," and it would be hard to disagree. Suddenly, the air is thick with tension. I catch Torque's eye as he looks at me. Kadir has had enough of the girl's attempts to weave her falsehoods. A curved sword swiftly materializes in his hand, plucked out of thin air. I'm not here for your games, little Raven. Choose your next words carefully. I'd argue this utter lunacy clears her of charges. She couldn't even cobble together a feeble story, much less orchestrate clandestine trading of this magnitude. And yarn spinning is supposed to be your clan's forte, isn't it? Last chance, my dear. Is there anything of substance you wish to add? There's a certain toughness in her demeanor. I look at her intently. Her struggle is clear as the first snow of winter. I wonder if there's more to her than meets the eye. I guess I should be using my abilities. I have no consequences, so... Gauge her intentions. I try to remain motionless, still as a shadow on a windless night, and fix my gaze on the Raven. Her eyes look beyond what's visible, distant, deep. Yet the only thing I manage to discern is a profound internal conflict hidden beneath the surface. Guess there's not much point in playing dumb, huh? Couldn't agree more. All right, then. So I indeed am tangled up in this little blood trafficking operation, playing a pretty crucial part, if I do say so myself, though I guess not everyone's on board with that assessment. I do the logistics, pushing merchandise through a series of dark web channels. Every eyebrow in the room goes up, with the exception of Julia, whose lips curve into a slight smirk. All totally secure and anonymous, no slips about, our thing, everything masked by the hustle of more mundane black markets. No way we're blowing the Masquerade. We deal in stored blood, as you might have caught on. Not just any blood, though. Our merch is a little jazzed up. Thaumaturgically enhanced, to be exact. It's the only way they'd work, as you're well aware. Right, of course. Oh, and we also deal in, let's just call them family treasures. But honestly, that's more like a side gig than anything serious. But we're extremely careful about picking our clients, and really thorough when it comes to making deals. The traditions and all. I was sure we'd never even come close to breaking them. At least that's what he led me to believe. The girl's voice drops, heavy with faux drama. I had a hunch there was some dodgy dealings in his more secret ventures. To deny that would be a flat-out lie, but let's be real, I'm way outside the inner circle to have a real sway in those parts of the enterprise. See, this is fucking weird right now, because, it was Kali. Usually when it's pointed to the left, it's somebody else, right, talking, and then it switched to her, and now it's in a thought box, not a dialogue box. An uneasy silence sweeps over the room for a brief moment, theatricality at its best. Is Enterprise, is this a joke? Exactly who is this he you're referring to? I presumed you knew it was my sire who's masterminding it all. The room is soon filled with muted whispers after the shocking revelation. I refrain from joining the murmuring crowd just yet. Indeed, how fortuitous, and your sire would be? There's only one other notable rogue in the city who comes to mind. someone dipping in and out, known for their shifty nature, of which I was somewhat aware. Reynard Castle. You nailed it, Chief. Sir? Another brief moment of silence gets interrupted by Julia, who decides to throw her 2 cents into the fray. I can practically hear the cogs turning in your head, Kadir. What's your take on it? Truth be told, it does add up, though I had pegged him more as a con artist and trafficker. Then why hasn't he been apprehended yet, Sheriff? Are you secretly endorsing activities that impede the circulatory system's operations? For your own good, Payne, I'll pretend I didn't catch that. Or would you care to question my dedication to our cause again? Be warned, my patience wears extremely thin these nights. Can we put this bickering on hold, at least for the moment? One more thing, Reynard... I need this episode to end. This is fucking too much reading. One more thing. Reynard and I had a meeting lined up with a client a few hours back, but he never showed up. In the whole year and a half I've been in this gig, he's never just vanished like this. What do you make of it? To be honest, I'm not sure, but now that I think of it, he's changed over the past month, become a lot more erratic than usual. Ready for my theory? I'm pretty sure he caught wind of your lot and decided to feed me to the flames while he made a run for it. I can't quite explain it, but there's an authenticity in how she constructs her story. Not every single word, perhaps, but the overall intent feels genuine, honest. Shut up, liar, liar, pants on fire. I believe she truly doesn't know where Castle is, and it's tearing her apart. Let her burn. She'll burn you to a crisp like a piece of trash. Kadir's approach just doesn't sit right with me, not the way he envisions it. She is the key. An unwitting pawn betrayed by her master, a likely story. Suitable for the stage indeed, but in this context, it just will not do it all. If I may. Damn it, Pedrick, don't go getting yourself into... I ignore Torque, to my future detriments, most likely, indeed. In an instant, the top echelon of New York's kindred fixed their eyes onto mine with unmistakable hostility. Since you've already disrupted the proceedings, you might as well say your piece, mediator. Very well, then. I'm inclined to believe her, at least in the aspects most significant to the interests of our allies. As ever, your assertion remains devoid of substance. My guy's advice is pretty much always on point. His track record speaks for itself. I give Torque a grateful look, but he doesn't return it. I'm definitely in for a tongue-lashing later, that much is clear. The sheriff has a point that seems to hold water. Her sire might just be the one at fault. She is essentially a non-entity, is she not? A nobody that slipped under the radar until, by a stroke of sheer bad luck, she got caught red-handed. Not excuse the pun, or do excuse the pun. When you give it another look, the evidence you have collected should indeed back up the claim quite convincingly. On what grounds your intricate evaluation precisely? My judgment is shaped by your vast experience and simply tempered by reasoning and intuition. It changes little regarding the consequences she must face for her complicity in her sire's crimes. How about I serve you Reynard's head on a silver platter in exchange for mine, unscathed on my shoulders? Kadir glares at the girl with a look that could kill, something that happens far too often these nights, but at least he lets her speak. I know all his secret spots in this town, plus the spots he wouldn't touch with a 10-foot pole. I'm wired into his network, his contacts, I've got his playbook down, and I can stay one step ahead of him with ease. Just give me a chance, and we'll all be thanking our lucky stars by the end. A quiet introspection befalls the room. It is apparent that opinions are split, yet gradually it seems the consensus is shifting in favor of the girl's proposal. I give myself an imaginary pat on the back. I have reservations about this daring proposition. Consider the potential fallout if this entire situation spirals out of control. Kadir throws up his hand, clearly having reached a decision. I cannot suppress a smirk at how I disrupted their plans with barely a flick of my wrist. Quite the mediator I am, really. Capturing this whelp proved hardly a challenge. I wouldn't sweat the idea of catching her again. What's more, entrusting her with Castle resolves 2 issues at once. It swiftly eliminates her presence and enables us to prioritize genuine concerns. Someone has to keep a constant watch over her. Valerie, perhaps one of yours. How about him? It takes me a moment to notice the Ravnos girl pointing directly at me, and even longer to realize the implications. Stupid, stupid, stupid. My eyes quickly sweep over the council members, catching the faint smirks on their faces. This cannot... Surely you're not considering... This could play out quite favorably, I must admit. Quite favorably indeed. Bollocks. Very well, Pedrick Conroy, I hereby appoint you as the agent caretaker of this Ravnos neonate. I hate to break it to you, Sheriff, but this calls This call is out of your turf. He's with Anarchs. He's with us Anarchs, and you know it well enough. Technically, when he took on the whole peacemaker role for our cliques, he acquired a level of neutrality. So, yeah. None of that matters, I realize, as soon as Kadir redirects his gaze to me. Her responsibility is to ensure she fulfills the assignment within 4 nights, starting now. Any slip-ups on her end will reflect on your record as well. Do we have an understanding? I nod in resignation. Clearly the situation has moved beyond my control now. Stupid little Patty. Fucking moron. 4 nights, not long at all, yet they stretch out like an eternity ahead of me. This arrangement might also hamper my visits to Vritra. Now, back to where we were. I suppose all I can do is grit my teeth and do my best to track Castle down. The sooner I get down to it, the faster I'll be able to return to my own agenda. I doubt the girl will be much help. Unless, of course, the Ravnos trickster turns out to be a wild card. I don't feel like this is necessary at all. I really don't. My patience is a weird thing. What's the point of these meetings with Vitra? She keeps withholding crucial information about the voice. I need to understand its nature and why I can't control it like the others. As anticipated, my fashionably late arrival at the council's meeting did not go unnoticed, but I was not the focus tonight. That honor belonged to Callie, child of Raynor Castle, suspected of selling arms to the hunters. Within 4 nights she is to deliver him to the council, and as for me, I am to serve as her shadow. So are we just going to replay it again, but from Pedric's perspective? Because that's just, I mean, here we are. Like, you would think that, if anything, this would just be a little bit of an attack on. Like, if we needed his perspective and what was going on, you know, we could have just skipped the remainder of the dialogue, because in order to even play as Pedric, you have to play as Kali first, which means we've already gone through the dialogue and all of this. So, like, the little bit before he showed up, okay, you know, that just fills that in. But then we could have just completely blanked out the rest of that. Like, I didn't need the reminder. And if we're just going to do this again, like, my God, this is just nothing but reading. This is a book. This whole thing could have just been a book instead of a game. This isn't a game. Like, my choices had no impact whatsoever. Especially for Pedric. His choices aren't going to make difference for shit. We already know the plot up until him getting staked at the end. So we're just choosing that. Man, this is really disappointing. Anyway, I'll end this one here. I'll see you next time.